Democrat Marie Glusenkamp Perez represents Washington's 3rd Congressional District and won one of 22's closest races. She told C-SPAN about the blue-collar bent of her district, why she decided to run, and about the business she and her husband own and operate in nearby Portland, Oregon.
My husband and I own an auto repair and a machine shop, so work in the trades.
And you know how to fix cars.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a great mechanic, more like a lube tech, but yeah.
And why did you decide to run for office?
Well, I mean, for one thing, I think we're all hungry to see a Congress that looks more like America. And it was kind of a unique set of circumstances where my predecessor was one of the Republicans who had voted to impeach Trump. And as a result, she was primaried by a ton of Republicans. They were all vying for Trump's endorsement, and they're just like going so far right. And of course, the most right of them got the endorsement. And I really didn't feel like they represented the values of my community. And I feel like, you know, the response to the sort of MAGA vitriol that can come up is you know, it comes more, you know, from rural communities. You know, the response has got to come from the trades. It's, I feel like so often we're sort of talked over, and the Democratic Party often kind of turns to academics and, you know, lawyers to answer these questions for us, and I am really tired of that.
So
and
you
so, yeah,
you
I'll
decided
go for
to
it.
run.
Yeah.
How big of a long shot were you?
Well, if you ask, you know, Nate Silver, I had a 1 in 50 chance. Terrible, but I really knew my district, and I knew that my district, they can't stomach extremism. We're tired of that, and so I felt like in that spectrum, it really, you know, I know my community, and I believed they would support me and be behind me, and so lucky I was right.
Who lives in your community? Who are the people there?
Yeah, so my community is the Columbia River Gorge, Skamania County, where I live, all the way out to the ocean, Pacific County, so it's like 7 counties, lots of rural, it's like 5.5 hours or so to drive across it. And then the city of Vancouver is probably the biggest city that folks would have heard of, Longview, Kelso, Centralia, yeah.
And what you said, they want a tradesperson here in Congress. Do most people work in the trades? And if so, what are the jobs?
It's a variety. You know, it used to be a lot more logging and paper. We've lost a lot of our mills, you know, with the rise of plastics and just like cheap overseas products. Like, it's been really hard with the reduction and thinning projects. Those things have all been crippling our paper and cardboard industries and our timber products, which I think is a mistake. You know, but we've got folks that work in all kinds of industries. We've got some tech, we've got Bonneville Power, you know, we've got a lot of fishing. We have one of the most fishing dependent communities in the entire country, Pacific County, and Waco, so shellfish, salmon, you know, a lot of people who work for a living.
You have a bumper sticker I read that says, if you're against logging, try plastic toilet paper.
Yeah, right? I mean, it comes from somewhere, right? You know, and you know, for most paper products, that's like the pulp. That is the byproducts or the thinning projects. It's not, you know, timber per se. But, you know, there is a role, and I think that we have been importing a lot of timber from countries that have lower environmental standards. That means we are exporting our pollution, and that's a mistake. We need to reshore those jobs and make sure that they are family wage jobs with appropriate environmental standards, and bring back our, you know, local economies.
Where does your democratic philosophy come from?
Yeah, so growing up, I was actually a member of the Young Republicans and the Young Democrats. I went to both their meetings, and it wasn't until my brother came out as gay in college I was like, wait a minute, like, this is hurting people. This is not the right direction. And so, you know, I don't really identify myself as like a moderate, you know. I think that, right, good ideas come from everywhere. You know, nobody's got a monopoly on the truth or reality. I think we all need to be in conversation, and so, like, I don't know how valuable labels are, but you know, I really believe in the social values of human dignity.
What impact did your parents have on you and who you are today?
Yeah, well, growing up, my dad was a pastor, a lay pastor at a Bible church, and my mom, taught ESL. My family is one that really believes in public service. My brother's a surgeon at the VA now. My sister does, nonprofit law. My other brother is a missionary. So, and I believe that working in the trades is like a public service, right? Like you're enmeshed in your community. You're helping people get to work. You're working out when they can't make the bill this month, right? But so is being in Congress, and I think like bringing that to Congress was really important to me, and just very fortunate to have had parents that really put public service in their community forefront in their lives.
What did your husband think when you said, I want to run for that seat?
He had to think long and hard, because he is a man that he really believes me when I say I'm going to do something. And so for him, it wasn't like, oh, she's just going to run. Like, he always believed that I was going to win if I did it. And so he was, he really took seriously the extra work that it was going to be for him. I mean, listen, like, he's homesick right now with my baby, Like, it's really hard. It's a sacrifice for him, and I'm really fortunate. And I take that seriously, right? Like, having so many people sacrifice for me to be here, like, that is so much more weight for me to be effective here and to use my time here prudently and effectively.
How are you going to, or how have you decided you're going to balance your time here and time back home? You have a long flight.
Oh, it's a long flight, but it's so worth it to be home. I mean, I love my district. Like, Washington State, Southwest Washington is unparalleled. Like, it is the most beautiful place in the world. And so it's so important for me to stay close to home and hear from my communities. And it's a big district, like I said, so it's not like I'm just at home. Like, I'm trying to be out in the community as much as possible, because I think that's what it takes to effectively represent the interests.
On your determination to run, did I read right that when you decided you might do this, you sat down and Googled how to run for office? Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, I am somebody that like uses a spreadsheet for everything, right? So like there was a whole Google spreadsheet on like, sort of the costs and benefits of running if I didn't win and running if I did win, and what it would look like for my family. I am not somebody that comes to this with like a lot of like political savvy, but I think that is a huge asset, right? Like, when I fix a car, like, I can't talk someone into believing that I've fixed it. It actually has to be fixed, so like that, I don't have a spin muscle, like, so I think that's actually an asset in being effective and candid